Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So, Hare Krishna devotees, Hare Krishna to everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so a lot of new names. Pratika, iPhone, not too familiar. Okay, so we can start. So who's going to chant? Who's going to read? You can keep your hand raised. So do you all know the chapter number? What is the chapter number?
Chapter 6, Mataji.
Chapter 6.
Thank you so much. Chapter 6. So why is chapter 6 coming? Because 5th chapter, Krishna is asking a doubt, right? Which is very important. Should I go and completely run away from the war field and renunciate the work itself, or renunciate the result? So Krishna is telling, as long as the objective is me, like both the results are fine, but it's easier to renunciate the result, right? So now we will all see, we always believe in the road not taken. So immediately what we'll do, how can Krishna you decide? I will decide, right? I am the one who has to decide whether I will do Ashtanga Yoga or whether I will do Bhakti Yoga. How can you tell? You have given 2 paths. Therefore, I would want to try both the paths, right? Please don't be my judge. This is our usual style, right? So Krishna understands that and he says, okay, I will allow you all to go by your usual style. So I will also tell you how to do the Ashtanga Yoga process. And then after hearing, and if you want to practice, also practice, and then you decide. While I have told you all that it's easy to do Bhakti Yoga, but if you feel that, you want to do Ashtanga Yoga, of course, please go ahead, right? So that's why this particular chapter is evolved. And there is a detailed, I would say this is a small version, and the very elongated version of the same stuff is there in Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 2. So before we start off, let's start off with Mangalacharana. Just Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjala Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadatikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimadi Bhaktin Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravagi Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Panchastha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vatsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Come on, all of you, unmute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
So
Krishna.
you all can see a halo around my head, and this is not my halo, not the DP. This is Ashtanga Yoga. So if you move a bit, you know how the yogi will focus on the mind and get this done. Right? So let's start off with the chapter. This is also called Dhyana Yoga. Let's pay our obeisances to Shishi Radha Govinda. And fifth chapter, right? So can anyone tell me what does the fifth chapter talk about? I've kept it on the screen. So if someone can summarize the fifth chapter. Mohandas Prabhu, you've sent a reminder, no, to all of them in class, for class.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, I have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Can anyone tell me what we revised in the fifth chapter? Yes, no, don't know. Okay, so let me quickly give a revision. So fifth chapter, we were talking about, the fourth chapter ended telling that Krishna was telling Arjuna that everything culminates to knowledge, right? And finally he concludes by telling, get up and fight. So Arjuna is now completely confused, and he again says, boss, which is comfortable, which is the right thing to perform, renunciating work or the results? Krishna says both, are fine, but renunciating the results are even easier. Now, so then we also studied about the three doers, who is Jiva, God, and that is Krishna, and the Mahamaya, right? Material nature. And each of us had different views to blame, right? Some of us were blaming material nature, some were blaming God, but the true doer is this Jiva. Jiva desires, God sanctions, and the material nature is only the facilitator. So therefore, that is one topic discussed. And therefore, whoever understands this by focusing on the super soul gets liberated, right? Now you will come and tell, okay, Bhakti Yoga gives you liberation. Why can't I do Ashtanga Yoga? Because in Bhakti Yoga, we depend on the God. But Ashtanga Yoga, it's only me, I, myself, right? So let me do Ashtanga Yoga. And finally, the peace formula. How do I get? So now this chapter is, so the fifth chapter, the 27 and 28 verse gave a very small glimpse of Ashtanga Yoga. So the entire sixth chapter has 47 verses, which is going to take us in detail on the Ashtanga Yoga. So he's talking about how do you advance in yoga through detachment, right? So you have a couple of stages, and the stage is also starting off with called yogarudha stage, right? So do you, at that, which stage do you give up work? So this is spoken. So between 10 and 32, further stages, how do you practice and what are the various other stages in yoga? And 33 to 36 talks about what is the necessity of controlling the mind. Why should you control? And now there are two options, right? Okay, we control the mind. If we are successful, okay, we'll get liberated. What if we don't succeed? What if we fail? And what is the status of the topmost yogi? So all this is discussed. So advancing in yoga through detached work, Ashtanga yogis, it's like for Nishkama Kama yogis, what they do is they will engage detached work. Let me explain to you simple. So what happens is, even for people who practice Ashtanga yoga, there is a category wherein they won't immediately leave everything and run. They will actually be doing and completely be engaged in the work only to start with. Only when they know that they are able to control the mind, after they get that confidence, only they'll give up on work. But primarily, the process by itself first is set only after we are able to be successful about focusing the mind, right? Only then, that is, the control should be coming first. Then only the process starts. So the process needs prerequisite of self-purification. In Bhakti Yoga, it's easy because the process itself is purifying, right? So the very contaminated person can take the chanting bead and start, and they get purified. So we already saw the three doers, which we discussed. By meditating on the super soul, right, one can develop devotion to him in Bhakti Yoga. So we saw that Bhakti Yoga, how it happens. And he is a supreme controller, enjoyer, and best friend. So this is what we saw in the fifth chapter, the last shloka. Uktaram yajna tapasam sarva lokamaishwaram sukridam sarva bhutanam natmam shanti gacchati. And now connection between what is the fifth and the sixth chapter. So we are talking about fifth and sixth chapter, which we are talking about super soul. We are talking about consciousness increases. So what happens? So how is the process, right? Knowledge first increases. Then you understand that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. Then you get into the concept of Jnana Yoga. So this is talking about what is the link. And then finally, the focus is again on the super soul. The only difference between Bhakti Yoga and here is both of them focus on the super soul. But the Bhakti Yoga is largely into Supreme Personality of Godhead. And more than anything, Bhakti Yoga, the object and the objective, that is, the process also is thinking of Krishna and the destination is also to reach Krishna. Ashtanga Yogi, the process may involve thinking of Krishna, but the end, the object is Krishna, but the objective is not Krishna. The objective is to go and merge in Brahmajyoti. So we will go ahead and see, right? 6.1. Would anybody like to chant the shloka? Hare Krishna. Would anybody like to chant the shloka, or anyone likes to read the text? Chanting I can do. Anyone would like to read the text, you can unmute and start. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Anashrita Karma Palam Karyam Karma Karotiya Sa Sanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Naniragnir Na Chakriya. Can anyone read? Okay. I think today all are in a Sunday mood, sleepy mood. So keep yourself awake. I'll try and make it as fast as possible. So what they are saying is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's Krishna, is saying that whoever is not attached to the fruits, right, and who wants to renounce the order of life, that means he wants to give up whatever he's doing, he wants to renounce life itself. He is a true mystic, right? Fine. But what he says, this is a very nice word, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. It's not that somebody who's not working, going to the forest, that's not the true yogi. He's saying as long as you're not attached to the foods, that person is the true yogi, not someone who just goes in the forest without lighting a fire and thinking food will get cooked. It's not going to happen. So this is the opening statement of Krishna. Why? Because he's totally supporting this. So what he is talking about renunciation, he is saying is same as yoga. So renunciation of work is not something which he is favoring, but he is talking about results, because the results only involve in self-gratification. So what is the difference between Bhakti? Let's talk about common between Bhakti Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. He's telling both of them actually aim at controlling senses, fine. And both of them are having object of Krishna, fine. But the objective varies, right? For Bhakti Yoga, the objective continues to be Krishna, whereas in Ashtanga Yoga, it is moving to Paramatma. 6.3. Hare Krishna. If you all have any doubts, you can type in the chat box here. Aru rukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate yoga rudasya chasyaiva samakaranam yuchyase. So yoga ladder has two stages, right? One which is there, Aru ruksho. That means rukshu, and the other one is rudasya. So these are the two levels, right? So the first level, which is the neophyte level, we talk about 8-fold yoga system, which we will see today. And for somebody who's already elevated, then he can give up. So he's saying for a neophyte who wants to start, who's the rukshu, he has to follow the step-by-step process. But for somebody who's already elevated, fine, he can leave all the job and just go, because he's already in the yoga rudasya, right? He's in an advanced level. So he's talking about the various concepts now. So starting off, what first you will be in karma khanda. I will only focus on my work. So most of us, before we even joined the 18 days Bhagavad Gita, were in the karma kanda state. And the next state in the karma kanda, we'll move from karma kanda to karma yoga. So, where we talk about nishkama karma yoga. The next level is jnana yoga, wherein we will understand I am not the body, I am the soul, renounce fruits, focus only on knowledge. And in jnana state, the focus actually is fully on the knowledge part, right? So that's the concept there. And they focus more on the light, the Brahman feature, which is the first level. Ashtanga Yoga, they focus on the Paramatma feature. And what they do, they focus on the super soul within, and they follow what's called the 8-fold path, which we are going to see now. And Bhakti Yoga is on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are the steps. So yoga stage, right? When he is no more, we see he is a well-wisher, he's not envious, he's pious, and he's equal to both friend and enemy, right? What he will do, Krishna. So it's like this work on mind, not only the body. Always their focus is on the mind, right? Why am I not getting paid? They break ahead and do that. So they're talking about what's called the yoga ruda stage, where you can give up the work. So there are two stages, right? So I told you. So the first stage, when you start off with, you start with the fact that you'll be working, and only at a higher stage, when you reach the yogarudha stage, you will go up. Initially, you will just be working again. So yoga rukshu, which we already saw, is a neophyte stage, right? Neophyte means beginning. So he doesn't give up the work. He must work. But the work, still he will have some attachment. So as long as he has attachment to his work or the fruits of the work, either case, cannot control his mind, because he will go on getting entangled, right? So he will only be working full time, and he will be working part time on asana, pranayama, and he will be engaged in his day-to-day activities. That stage is called the neophyte stage, and here it's called yoga rukshu. Right? Now, yoga ruda, what is this stage? It's an advanced stage. And what happens in advanced stage? Here, he is not having any influence of self-control or self-gratification, and he is totally willing to do all the material activity. Hare Krishna. Can you see the slide?
Yes,
Yoga is
Mataji.
full time.
Yeah, I can see this.
Sure. Yoga is full time. He is not doing anything, but he only practices yoga completely. So that's the process. Hare Krishna. What did we do? Okay. So how does he do? He has to fight with his own endeavor, right? Because Bhakti Krishna is coming to help. Here he is only thinking that he will fight, and he will try to think of his mind being a friend. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and after this, think and answer. The question is going to be, is your mind friend or an enemy? So maybe I should just hold this slide. Now you all tell me, is a mind a friend or an enemy?
It depends on the situation.
How?
It can be both.
So
If we think good,
sorry?
no, ma'am, you can continue.
Dimple, tell me one thing. Do you have a best friend who is one time best friend, one time worst enemy? Have you experienced that? Or your best friend is always your best friend and your enemy is always an enemy?
Yes, enemy is always the enemy and best friend is always.
Yes. So you do not have, okay, breakfast time, my best friend is a best friend. You may not like her because she advised you. That's not what I'm telling. So the roles don't keep changing, right? Now, if you have your best friend as your enemy, it's the most dangerous situation. At least enemy, as an enemy. Imagine a friend becoming an enemy, or if somebody behaves like a friend and is actually having enmity, we are done. Right? So let's see what is coming up. Hare Krishna. Udaret atmanatmanam natmanam avasayataye atmaiva atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanah. Hare Krishna. So he's telling that first he has to help his mind. He cannot degrade himself, because the mind is very tricky. If you control the mind, there are various ways of control. If you tell mind, just keep quiet, it's like a child. You start telling me, no, you can't control me, it will start fighting. So you just can't control the mind, right? The mind is something which is terribly weird, right? So the mind is going to be always going to be a friend, provided we are able to control the mind. But we are not, we are conditioned souls. So currently the mind is only enemy. We keep thinking it's a friend. Sometimes we have this voice, right, which tells us don't do, that is super soul. But sometimes the voice is so similar, it tells it's okay, Kannada, it's okay, just one drink. Na? Is that super soul? No, it's a mind which is imitating the super soul, right? So currently the mind is, I told you, right, playing the dual game. So is my mind a friend or an enemy? Okay, I have a small request. I think there is a small challenge with respect to the Zoom meeting, which might end in 10-15 minutes. Please log in again if it automatically ends, right? Please log in again in the same ID, and we will start giving a different ID soon. So for the one who's conquered the mind is the best friend. But for somebody who has not conquered the mind, then it becomes the greatest enemy. So this is a very beautiful verse. Hare Krishna. Bandhur Atma Manastasya Yenatmaivatmana Jitah Anamandastu Sastrautvu Vartethatmaiva Shatruvat. Hare Krishna. So he says, for someone who's conquered, mind who's conquered, it's the best friend. But for someone who's failed, he's the worst enemy. So 6.7, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Dimple. Hare Krishna.
For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat, cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
Hare Krishna. So he's telling for somebody who's already in that stage, that means they have understood the super soul. Super soul reach means not that he reaches super soul. Right? He's so realized he does not see difference between sukha, dukkha, heat or cold, honor or dishonor. We think, okay, ma'am, we are also like that. Yeah, is it so? In your school, if you take someone or college, if some teacher is scolding, children behave differently, right? One child will laugh. One child does not have any impact at all. One child is an outstanding student. I used to be an outstanding student, not in ranking, but outstanding, we used to tell is going out of the class. Any outstanding students here? No? Were you ever set inside the class?
At different times, I think everybody outstanding.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Agam, for supporting. Yeah, so that way we are all outstanding students, right? So the definition is, literal meaning is outstanding, not standing out. So that's what I meant. So therefore, coming back to this, right? So the person is said to be established in self-realization, and such a person is called yogi. So yogi is coming from a word, Sanskrit word called yuj, which means connecting to God. So what do you mean by self-realization? It means understanding that we are part and parcel of Krishna. Understanding what we are, where do we come from, right? Now, this guy does not see a difference between pebble and the stone and the diamond. Now, does it mean that he doesn't know the difference? No, he knows, but he doesn't care because he is very elevated. For him, anything is just the same because he thinks everything is an action of God. Can someone tell me who this person is? This picture. Can you tell me in the picture who it is? So it's a very nice story of Amrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. So Durvasa, so Ekadasi, tomorrow is Ekadasi, and Amrish Maharaj also was fasting. So there is a particular time where you break the fast, right? It's called Dvadasi, which is the next day, and there's a specific time. So Dhruva Maharaj comes for the, he comes over there. Why does he come? He comes to attend the function, basically comes to the royal place, and he says that I'll go take bath and join you. So normally there is a guest style, right? When there is a guest, you have to advise him, take him and eat with him. So Durvasa Muni is waiting and, Amrish Maharaj is waiting for Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni just doesn't come. He is deliberately delaying. And what happens is all the Brahmins, the Acharyas tell him that you can have a drop of water because water is considered as breaking the fast, at the same time not breaking the fast. So water is considered as, in both ways. It's got the dual effect. So you don't have to break the fast. At the same time, like when the guests are coming also, we wait for the guests. But it's still okay if we drink water. No, it's not that we have to not even drink water. But we don't normally have lunch. Of course, today's situation is different. We all eat even before the guests come. But I'm just talking about the normal situation. So now what happens is Amrish Maharaj eats and Durvasa Muni gets to know, and he makes a big issue over it. And he, creates this fire demon and sends. Now, Amrish Maharaj is only meditating on Krishna's name, not even asking him for help. And immediately Sudarshan Chakra, right? Sudarshan Chakra is, in fact, a high-end devotee of Krishna. Also, one more thing is Sudarshan Chakra happens to be born as a brother of Krishna when Krishna came here to earth 5,000 years back. In fact, Sudarshan Chakra was born to Vasudeva, Krishna's father, who happens to through another wife, right? So that's Sudarshan. So you can imagine how crazy Sudarshan Chakra will be, and immediately it killed the fire demon and did not spare. It ran after Durvasa. So Durvasa Muni wanted to save his life, so he started running, and finally he enters the kingdom of Shiva and requests him, okay, can you save me? So Shiva is telling, Aradhananam sarvesam Vishnur Aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadayartam samarchanam. He's saying of all the Aradhana, Vishnu Aradhana is the best. So therefore, I will not be able to go against Vishnu. Right? This is from Padma Puran, where Shiva is explaining to Parvati when she says like, whom are you meditating on? So Shiva is giving that answer. Now the same story is happening. So Shiva is sending Durvasa Muni. In spite of the fact that Durvasa Muni is a partial incarnation of Shiva, right? So it is Samsa. Even then he says, no, I can't help. Then he approaches Brahma. So now Brahma is telling, oh my God, how do you even think I'll be able to help? I can't, And then he finally goes to Vishnu. Now Vishnu should help, right? But Vishnu is telling, how can you think I can help? I can't help. I'm so sorry. So he's so confused. He says, what can happen? He says, only my devotee. Sudarshan Chakra will not stop. Only my devotee can actually come back and do anything, if at all. He goes back and falls on his feet. In fact, by the time the whole process is over, it's 1 year, 365 days, human years. And Durvasa Muni is waiting with just that drink, one sip of water. So he goes and falls on the feet, and Sudarshan Chakra is still there, and Durvasa Muni is wondering, and Amrish Maharaj is requesting, please, forgive our devotee. He is such an exalted devotee. Kindly do not do anything and give him life again. So this is a request which he does. So the 6 enemies of the mind: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya. So there's one more story, right? So these 6 people. So all of you all know that Krishna is the 8th son, and the 7th son was Balram. So the 6 kids who were killed were all these only: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya, right? So these are the 6 people who were killed prior to that. And who are they? They were initially Maruchi's sons. So Maruchi these sons, they were cursed by the Brahmana, and so therefore they were born as kids of Devaki, and they died. So this is a story. I just thought I will take you all, because this is too much of dry speculation. So I thought I'll take you all on the storyline. So we have, one who establishes in self-realization by virtue of knowledge and self. So what happens is, this is what I said. He doesn't see a difference between stone and a gold. Not that he doesn't know, he knows, but he is not bothered, right? And well-wishers, affectionate beneficiaries, all of them for him is same. Now you may tell, just now, we're talking about friend, right? And Dimple said, no, enemy is an enemy, right? For us, we have to have clear demarcation, but for him, none of this matters. For him, everybody is equal. So now we will go into section 3. So I'm going to log out everybody. Hare Krishna. So can I end the meeting? Because I think it's showing 40 minutes meeting. So there's a small issue. Can I end the meeting? Can I request you all to join back in the same ID right now?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mohandas Prabhu. You can just pause. So you can go for the second recording. I don't know whether you want to record.
Yeah, I can pause.
I mean, yeah.